Buckle up, football fans. It's time now for Toyota Talks. All right, good morning, football's Jamie Erdahl, nice enough to join us, as she typically does. All right, tell me, how's my fellow Bears fan Kyle Brandt doing? He did not look good on Monday, Jamie.
Yeah, welfare check. You know, we're all parents at the table on Good Morning Football Overtime. And as a parent, I think there's no more frustrating phrase to say to your child than "I'm disappointed in you." And I feel like Kyle had that tone on Monday about the Bears. It's not that he was screaming and, yelling and throwing his surface or anything about the Bears. It was just that I think he was disappointed with, given the amount of time in the offseason and once again another August filled with hype about this team, that's how they went into Detroit and essentially behaved. So I know there was disappointment in his tone, and I know he doesn't like to reference back to the historical failures, if you will, of the teams, but it's just so hard not to see the connective tissue when a season starts out as frustrating as it has for the Bears.
Tell him his fellow Bears friend Lou feels his pain. What's bothersome isn't that the Bears are 0-2, Jamie, but how they reached 0-2. Yeah. They blow the 17-6 fourth quarter lead to your Vikings, and then they get their doors blown off at Detroit. What's the feeling on Good Morning Football about Ben Johnson's start?
The feeling is, I believe, that we've seen what he's capable of in the last handful of years in Detroit. We know what's between his ears. We know what his offensive spirit is about. How that translates to being a head coach for anybody in the NFL is the ultimate question. And it's one that we are constantly faced when anybody gets elevated from coordinator to head coach. Now, the tricky thing, I think, about Ben Johnson is how he went about this. There was so much buildup to the Ben Johnson mystery and what he could be as a head coach. He was the top candidate for 3 years running in the NFL head coaching cycle. So couple that with the fact that he decides to go take a job in the division, and then he starts his tenure with addressing the Packers the way that he did in his opening press conference. He continues to behave in a way where he won't say the quarterback's name in Detroit. He'll just call the Lions that team. I think if it's Ben Johnson, there's a lot of expectation, and I still think he has wiggle room to obviously turn things around. But if he's already referencing the practice habits of his team in going into week 3, I wonder if he himself is just trying to get the shoes to fit properly when it comes to this job.
What did you think of his comments, challenging his team's practice habits and that they don't practice like a Super Bowl championship caliber team?
I think, he's allowed to have an opinion, and he's in charge of the team. I didn't find offense to them. And if I was a player on that 53-man roster, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a guy on the team who's like, "What do you mean, coach? I'm practicing my behind off." I bet if everyone took some truth serum, they would probably have something to say about, I don't think he said anything about their effort. I think it was just championship caliber. That means execution. That means the ball never hitting the ground. So I wasn't bothered by it. I always appreciate a coach who leads with honesty and who assesses things and doesn't treat the media or a question that's asked of that way like it's just a brush off. So I didn't mind the comments.
Yeah, I appreciate his transparency, that's for sure. Hey, can Manti Te'o still rush the quarterback?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, we need a pass
rusher. It
rusher.
Sometimes when we go to do segments, he looks like he wants to get back out there and play. But no, I think I would like to keep him to my left on Good Morning Football.
Tell Manti we need him in a Bears uniform. We need someone to put pressure on Dak Prescott this weekend.
I know.
Man, the pass rush was supposed to be improved, and we're just not seeing it in this town.
I think Kyle Brandt's going to talk about this on Friday ahead of this weekend. He gave us a little teaser today, so I will borrow his line of thinking when I tell you that the first 2 weeks, to your point, were really challenging. But to come back home and to have to host a Cowboys team that is most likely flying high off of their own overtime division victory against the Giants, but here comes Matt Eberflus coming in with a new defense, and who knows how they're going to play. And what Kyle, I think, was alluding to today on the show is you're going to have an Eberflus run defense come in here and chase your quarterback down. That's probably not going to sit well with Bears fans, I would think, ahead of this weekend.
100%. Speaking of the Bears quarterback, Caleb Williams really wasn't the reason why the Bears got crushed at Detroit, but we're also still waiting for this guy to be the reason why the Bears won a game. We're waiting for him to be that generational first pick in the draft quarterback. Are you starting to lose doubt that that's ever going to happen?
I'm not having doubt. I am wondering what type of player he wants us to see him as, I guess, is probably the best way to explain it. I oftentimes watch quarterbacks, and the ones that are equipped to run, the Jalen Hurts types of the world, when they run, it's done with intention. It's almost like the play call was designed as such that if Hurts gets out of the pocket, you know things are going to go well for him because he knows what he's doing. He's under control, and that plan was a part of his decision-making tree. What I fear for Caleb Williams and any young quarterback is that when a play does break down and they get out of the pocket, the way that the feet look to me at times is one of panic and not intention. And I think those are two very different ways to see a quarterback scramble. Scramble is almost a misappropriated term when sometimes it is an intentionally designed quarterback run. When Caleb does it, and what I've seen in the first 2 weeks is I fear that he's doing it because he doesn't have another option to go to. He feels like he's on an island already, and that's 2-3 seconds into a play. Now, what's fresh in my mind is the Monday Night Football Vikings game when J.J. McCarthy himself had his own designed run on an RPO to the corner of the end zone, and that was an absolutely electric moment for the Vikings. When Caleb was running, as that game went on, it looked like he was doing it out of, I don't know how else this play is going to go, but I know I can take it into my own hands. And you don't want a quarterback to feel like he's helpless.
I agree with you 100%. So what do you think is going to happen Sunday in that game between the Bears and Cowboys?
I want to see some fight from the Bears, and specifically, I want to see it down the stretch. We've talked a lot on the show about how those designed play calls and the scripted opening series of the games have gone swimmingly for Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. I need the final 10 plays to go that way for Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. So it's something about, I don't know if it's how they practice and the way that the plays are thought out, but after that, when Caleb is left to his own devices, it just seems like things unravel as the game goes on. And I need to see a zipped up Bears team for the entire 4 quarters experience, because I do fear that the Cowboys, maybe they heard the noise about, well, they're just going to be a joke after Micah Parsons gets traded away. That can offend a lot of people. And I feel like towards the end of that game against the Giants last week, then we saw a different version of the Bears. So you're getting a really tenacious Cowboys team, highly emotional. They want to come to an NFC North opponent and show them what they're worth. And I think that's going to be a tall task for the Bears, who have their own problems they have to deal with.
By the way, a motivated Matt Eberflus, as you referenced earlier. Let me give you one quick wrap-up, because I know you're Miss Minnesota Viking. Please don't tell me you feel good about the Viking season resting on the shoulders of a guy who is now going to start for his 6th team in 6 seasons.
I could spin optimism and say that if you're starting for your 6th team in your 6th season, you are bright enough to adopt a playbook and navigate it successfully. But I think if you're Carson Wentz, there's also a reason why you haven't been named a starting quarterback again since you lost the opportunity the first couple of times. So unfortunately for Vikings fans, I know from a marketability standpoint, this isn't what they would have wanted ahead of this game against the Bengals, and then also going to Ireland and then London. For the first time ever, the NFL has a team playing 2 back-to-back Europe games, and the fact that Carson Wentz is going to quarterback those, I'm actually wondering, as an NFL fan, does JJ go on that trip? How do you navigate a high ankle sprain with your starting quarterback, where probably flying 8-9 hours isn't ideal, but how do you take that away from a second-year quarterback who's trying to enmesh himself with the team? So that's more of a JJ thing than it is Carson. KOC is a brilliant coach. You guys saw that at the hands of it, unfortunately, on Monday night. So I think he can navigate anything, but I don't know what it means for the longevity of the Vikings.
You're the best. Thank you always for the time. We'll talk to you down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.